Hey, hello, welcome aboard 757 Spy Flight. I hope you're doing well. Did you hear the ToLiss A319 has got a pretty major update that's just come out? So, time for another Spy Flight cold and dark, and hopefully this will help you get your flight going just a little bit faster. Let's jump right into this particular flight. We're going to fly a United Airlines flight. One of the things I like to suggest is fly out of your hometown to the big city. So that's what we're going to do here. And this flight is going to take us about an hour or so. It does look like there's a little bit of weather around the Denver area, so we might have a little bit of fun with weather as well too. Some flight information for you. As usual with the cold and dark, I always like to suggest that you either fly this one along with me or choose a familiar route. Go to your hometown airport and then go to a big hub just like I am. It's also kind of cool if you can take a flight that you may have taken as a passenger. Tools that I use: Sim Toolkit Pro and SimBrief, Navigraph, Active Sky, and as you can see, I've already got X-Plane started up there. There's some last things there. First timer help here. Fly along with me. Again, I'm flying Billings to Denver. Feel free to pause and restart this video as we're kind of going along so that you can catch up, and if you have to, even rewind a little bit. And if you're a first timer into flight simming, be sure and join us on the Twitch Spy Flights. Finally, this is not the right way versus the wrong way. This is just my opinion, and basically this is just what works for me as a flight simmer and also a live streamer. I do read all your comments, and I definitely encourage you to send your comments my way too. And then I'll talk about Twitch and spy stuff in a little bit. But right now, let's hop on out to the airport and get this airplane going here. And we are at Billings Logan. This is a freeware airport that you can get at xplane.org. United's been blasting off from runway from Bravo 1. There's the Bravo 1 gate right there, and let's hop into the best seat in the house. If you look over here, you can see that I've already got my charts set up, so let's go ahead, start the airplane, and see what's new and what has changed. By the way, as far as what is new and what has changed on this particular airplane, I'm going to put all of the change log into the comments here. So the stuff that I've turned on here is I've turned on the battery. I've also turned on the external power. And let's go down here. Today, the day that I'm recording this, is the first day of the month. So that means I'm going to turn on logo light system number 1. Lots of pilots have different ways of doing the logo lights. We're also going to turn the no smoking light on to on. I'm going to also arm and guard, just arm the emergency exit lights as well. Looking up here and looking back, you can see that we've got the monitors on here, the CRTs, or LCDs, I guess. They're not CRTs anymore. And on the ToLiss, one of the things you do have to do is you have to adjust the level of the LCDs. So as we watch the power up here, we'll go here and just start turning these up. I'm basically turning them all up to about 1 o'clock or so. You might need it a little bit less when you're flying over in... if you're flying at night. So let's also go up, turn up the first officers, clear out that GPS primary that's missing. And the first officer's out doing the walk around the airplane, so we'll be a nice pilot and go over here and turn their LCDs up as well too. Other things that I've gone and done is I've turned on the McDoos, turned those up. You need to go down here and turn these on. These are the VHF radios, so you got to make sure that these are on. Make sure the little green dot is up there, and that means you can talk on the radio. We're also going to go up here and change frequency to 122.950. We are on the POSCON network, and if there's no ATC, you basically do CTAF on 122.95. We're also going to go to 123450. That is air-to-air communications. So we'll see if there's anybody to talk to there. Nothing else to do over here. Let's also slide down here. We'll turn on the first officer's radio. I'm also just going to look down here and make sure that TCAS, ATC is all set up, and it looks like it's pretty good as well too. Speaking of POSCON, POSCON's been doing a lot of updates lately. So one of the things is we've got the web UI here. Let's also go over here to plugins and go to POSCON. I'm going to go to settings, and it should show me as an Airbus A319 and United Airlines. So all of that is set. I'm going to save those. Let's also say maximum planes. It's got 50. I don't think we're going to see 50 planes today. So I'm going to hit save on that. Let's also go back into plugins. We're going to go to POSCON. I'm just going to look here once again, enable the transmitter, And yeah, that's what I wanted to do, is make sure my transmitter logo was good. Let's go to plugins, POSCON again, and we are going to log on. We have been logged on to POSCON. So now we're going to go over here to the web UI. We're going to pop that up, and these things should turn gray. Let's hit ATC and log on status, and our log on is going to be the KUSA network. And we are also going to go and put in our call sign UAL 441 and hit send, and it's going to make a noise. And it should come back in just a second with a set of ding-dong chimes. And then the new messages should light up, and we have a squawk code. And our squawk code is going to be 6016, 6016. And I'm going to look over at my flight notes and make sure I wrote it down. That's pretty good. Let's hit exit, and now I'm going to put this up here and slide it out of the way, and we don't need this. Speaking of flight notes, this is something else I'll put in the comments for you as well too. These are all of my flight notes here that we are going to be using for this flight. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to Sim Toolkit Pro, and we're going to go ahead and just hit Fly Now. That way I can get this plugged into my logbook and get credit for the flight on Sim Toolkit Pro. All right, everything is starting to power up here fairly nicely. Let's look up here, and this is when I do the fire check. And that's the APU, and that's engine number 1. That's engine number 2. This is also when I turn on my center fuel pumps, and we're going to hit the APU master. While the flap in the back of the airplane is going on, let's go ahead and turn up ADIRS number 1, ADIRS number 2, ADIRS number 3. You should also see the on battery light pop up there. That's always a good thing to check for. Make sure that the battery is connected there. That way, if we lose all sorts of power and have big trouble, at least the ADIR system has access to the battery. The flap is now open right now, so we can go ahead and turn on the APU. And that thing's going to be starting up. As it starts up, let's look down at the McDo and do the init for today. And the flight plan is simple. KBIL2KDEN. Let's plug that in. And that looks good. My alternate is KCOS, Colorado Springs International Airport. And I put that in the wrong one. KCOS. That goes in alternate airport. Our flight number is UAL 441. And that's going to go in flight number. Cost index, SimBrief gave me a cost index of, let me look at my flight plan real fast. Cost index is 5 for today's flight. And SimBrief is also sending us all the way up to flight level 370. Got all the first pages done. Let's go and hit the Align IRS button. And the IRSs are starting their alignment process. So we kind of look around here and make sure everything's looking good here on the control panel. I know that my final cruise is going to be flight level 370 since I plugged it in there. And since there's no ATC, we'll just go ahead and put that in at the moment. If we did have ATC, I would have put in my next cleared altitude. Altimeter here is 2990, so we can plug that in as well. And everything's looking good here, so let's go ahead and do the flight plan. Billings Logan Airport, we're going to be departing on runway 28 right. There is no SID out of here, so we'll just plug that in and hit insert. Over for Denver, we are going to basically be arriving. Winds at Denver are nothing at nothing. Usually the northern traffic is going to line. They're going to land those on the 16s, so we're going to go for 16 right. So 16 right, and usually they're going to have us do the flat 1 arrival. Flat 1 arrival, and we are going to go and look for the Tichenor transition. And that's our VIA, actually. VIA Tichenor. And we're looking for the transition. Is it Folsom or Mary Jane? Actually, I think it's Tofu. I'm going to go no right now and just plug that in. So flight plan and insert that. Go to the top of the flight plan, and this is about the only time that I ever really will pop out a window. And so let's also turn on constraints, put it in flight plan mode, zoom the map in all the way down. And then what I like to do is just move this right up here and go through the flight plan. After takeoff, we'll go straight out to BIL. That's the Billings VOR. Put that in over discrepancy. And let's just choose the top one here, which is only 4 nautical miles away. That's the one we're going to want. After billings, we're going to do gates, G-A-I-T-Z, G-A-I-T-Z. And this is one of the reasons why it is that I like to suggest that on first flights and stuff, you always try and use a flight plan or an area close to home, because you generally know about your own version of gates and grins. G-R-Y-N-S. There's grins. And you just know the way your way around. Next stop is going to be TOFU, T-O-F-U-U. So T-O-F-U-U, F-U-U. I'm not going to get myself in any trouble with that. Let's hit insert there, and we're going to clear the route discontinuity and insert that. There's gates, there's grins, there's tofu, flat, Eldo, be safe, be done, Tishner. That takes us right into the runway. Okay, that looks good. Let's go over here to the init page. One of the things that I've gone and done is I've already gone and gotten thrust reduction and acceleration page information from Blackbox's website. I'll put a link in there. That's the website where you can go and get those last few numbers. The other thing is this is the Airbus, the ToLiss. So we've got the big green box here, and this is really cool. This gives us all sorts of really good information. My forward cargo doors are open. I'm going to close those now. I'm going to leave the main door open as we go over to loading information. And basically for the big bill, we can take off with flaps 1 plus F. I've got 75 passengers here with the passengers distributed further to the front of the airplane. We've got 3.5 tons of bags cargo and 5.5 tons of fuel, which gives us all the information that we need here as far as flex temperature, trim, and also V speeds. So sometimes you have to go down there, and sometimes you also have to reselect this as well too, 1 plus F. Okay, so let's go over here. Off to the right, zero fuel weight. Our zero fuel weight for the airplane right now is right over here, and that's going to be 51.3. So do 51.3. Hit the slash mark. Our zero fuel weight center of gravity is 18.1, 18.1. And that goes in the top line. Block fuel is 5.5 tons. That number is also consistent with what's in the actual airplane. That number updates as you use fuel. So if you wanted to, you could kind of look up here and take a look at your fuel on board, 5.5, it's 5.5 there, so that kind of equals that. Off to the perf page, performance, and we know that we are going to do flaps 1 for takeoff, do a slash, and we are going to do trim up 2.8, UP 2.8. That goes in the top line. Our flex temperature is going to be, flex is 66 degrees. So we're going to say 66. That gives us a V1 of 148. It gives us a rotate speed of 148. It gives us a V2 of 151. And remember, I told you I went to Blackbox's website earlier, and that's what gave me thrust reduction and acceleration. If you don't want to put these numbers in, generally I've found that the airplane doesn't yell at you too much. But if you want to be authentic, let's go ahead and do 4870, 4,870 for thrust reduction. For acceleration, it's 6370, 6,370 feet. And if we have an engine out, our acceleration altitude is 4,900 feet. And again, I'm going to put Blackbox's website in the description, and you'll be able to get some information there. And I've also talked about it on some of these other cold and dark videos. We are done with door 1L, so we're going to go ahead and close that door. Everything else is good. In fact, we're pretty much done with the green box here. So let's look up here. Outside the aircraft we go. Oh, that's this button over here. So we've got the airplane over here. We've also got a jetway attached, so let's go to plugins. And SAM, this is a SAM airport, so hit that button right there. And you hit that little button, the little green bar, and there goes your jetway. While we're outside the airplane, let's also go ahead and get ourselves a pushback truck.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
And basically at this gate, they're just going to do a straight push. This airport does have a little bit of construction still going on, so we're going to give the airplane a little bit of a spin over here. Not much. It is pretty tight quarters. Hit enter.
Ground to cockpit. ToLiss driving up.
And this is where we're going to go ahead and use a printed checklist. There are printed checklists for these all over xplane.org, so our cockpit prep is essentially done. I need more coffee. Gear pins and covers are aboard. Seatbelt signs, those can go on. Seatbelt signs are on. The ADIRs, we're going to look up here. And they are still in alignment, so they are not done with alignment. So we're essentially here at a stopping place. So we're going to just leave everything alone because technically you're really not supposed to move these airplanes until you've got an alignment. And if you look over here in the ECAM, it does say that our IRS alignment is going to happen within 1 minute, but we're going to stick with the checklist. And while we're waiting for the ECAM, for the alignment there, I'll let you know that...
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Thank you. Better Pushback. I'll let you know the checklists, printed checklists for the Airbus are all over the place on xplane.org. You can also go out onto the internet and get some flight manuals for the Airbus A319, 20, and 21. And I absolutely suggest that you go and you grab one of those if you ever get the chance to do that. I think that that's one of those really good things to do. Whenever you have the chance to look at a real-world flight manual. Another thing you want to do is, we're still waiting for IRS alignment here, is there is a former United captain named Captain Mike Ray. Captain Ray has put together a whole series of books.
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
And those books basically are the flight simulator guide, and they were originally written for real-world pilots. And they're a little on the pricey side, but they are also extremely well done. And so if you've got a near study level airplane like that, picking up one of Mike Ray's books is a good thing to do. I have no agreement with Mike Ray. He's not giving me money to say that. I just think his books are that good. So let's see. Now we can basically say that the ADIRS is in alignment. We're going to verify our fuel here. Oops, my fingers are in the wrong spot. Our fuel is 5.4 tons. SimBrief said 5.2 to get to Denver. We're good to go there. Takeoff data is set. Barrel reference is set to Billings. Windows and doors are closed. We can go up here and we can turn on the beacon. There goes the beacon. And let's also look down here. I'm going to make sure that my thrust levers are all the way down. I'm also going to look over here, and I'm going to go like this, make sure that the stick and the rudder pedals actually work. Sometimes your drivers don't load when you start your computer, and you get on the runway and you find, hey, I don't have elevators, I don't have ailerons. What am I going to do? And that can sometimes be a problem. Let's say something nice on the radio. Billings traffic, United A319 pushing back from Bravo 1, Billings. We just said that on the POSCON network, and I'm going to go ahead and release the parking brake. And oh, how about that? We're going to get a rodeo ride here. Every now and then, Better Pushback just gives you an absolute crazy pushback, and it just sits there and goes absolutely nuts on you. I don't know what it is about it that does that. This is the first time I've ever seen it spin it around like a little top, so... I don't know what this is, but it is just going absolutely nuts. And that's just one of the things that happens with the ToLiss airplane and Better Pushback. There is a pushback system that you can use within the Airbus itself, the ToLiss, but we just have to go and rock and roll like this. Let's see if it starts pushing us back after we did a whole loop. Or if it's all it's going to do is sit and spin us in a circle. Oh, look at that. Now it's figured it out. And again, I don't know why it does that. ToLiss knows about it. Better Pushback knows about it. I don't think that they've been able to fix it yet. And apparently we're just going to go and do all sorts of craziness here. Oh, yes, let's go ahead and do that. The passengers are probably getting a little bit seasick right now. I think it's going to probably straighten itself out here any minute now. Now that we're doing that, we are cleared to start our engines. So let's go on back here and look down. I'm going to go and first of all, turn on the APU bleed. Let's also turn the temperature up in the front, down in the back. I'm also going to turn turn on the rest of my engines. I forgot to turn off external power. Oops. Got to do that before you leave the gate too. Okay, now let's go ahead and get the starter. One thing to do is look over here, and the ECAM's going to switch over to the engine page. Check PSI at the bottom. That lets you know that pneumatic pressure is going into the engine, so they'll start spinning when you turn it on. One of the updates that we got on this particular airplane is we got new sounds to go along with the Vulkan sound engine on X-planes. So let's listen to the sounds. Okay, well, there's sounds there.
Operation complete. Go ahead and set the parking brake.
Parking brake is set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
I'll say those engine sounds aren't bad at all. They sound pretty good to me. Look down here, you can see it says engine avail in green over there. That green thing is going to disappear in just a second. So if you happen to miss that, one of the things is on these Airbuses, the N2 number here when you're in the start sequence will turn to gray. So let's go ahead and watch over here. We're going to start up 2. And there it is. You see the gray box that went under the N2 as it's going up? So that's one way to tell. If you miss where it says avail up here on the EPR, just look over here and see the gray is gone and that's gone. So you've got a good start there. While we're at it, let's also go ahead and go over here. It says GPS primary. I'm going to clear that. Over here on the first officer.
And bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time, and have a safe flight.
I'm going to go ahead and clear that GPS primary, and I usually put the flight plan in over here for the first officer. Down here, we're going to go and put in our squawk code that we got from POSCON, which is 66016. And I'm going to go to on, and this is just when I usually go to TARA, or also known as Terra. Because this airplane is going to keep us in TA mode. We'll go to TARA, radio altimeter reporting. That'll go at the after we take off. Okay, we got a good start up here. As we look over here, let's look over there, let's look over there. There goes our pushback truck. We got a salute and release from guidance. Everything looks good. So the next thing that I'll do is go down here. We'll get the starter back to normal. We're going to go up here, and we're done with the APU bleed and the APU. So everything is looking good to go there. I think we're going to do control surfaces check. Notice how the ECAM is set to wheel mode. That's for brake temperature and wheel pressure. But as I push my stick forward, now all of a sudden it switches over to the flight controls, so you can go all the way down and all the way up. Let it go. When you release it, it should go back to the neutral position. And it does. Rudder all the way right, release. All the way to the left, release. This is when I'll look down over here and remind myself that our trim is going to be up 2.0. And you see the trim wheel moving as we go up to 2.0. There we go. Trim is set. And then the last thing you do on an Airbus is just reach down here and hit the rudder trim reset button. And that's pretty much the after start checkoff. Anti-ice, not needed right now. ECAM status looks like it's good. Everything looks nice there. Pitch trim, rudder trim are set. We can go ahead and do our taxi. Billings Logan, they basically take off on 28 right, so we're just going to take Alpha all the way out there. So let's say something on the radio. Billings traffic, United A319 pushed and started from Bravo 1, taxiing to runway 28 right via Alpha. Billings. We're good to go there. Now we're going to go and reach up here, and I'm going to go and turn on the lights. One click. I'm also going to hit the calls, and that's just ring the bell, let the flight attendants know that we're going to start to move the airplane. Reach over here, hands on the throttles, parking brake is off. Sometimes the airplane moves a little bit. Just move it. And then this airplane will just start taxiing, especially if you're going downhill. And we are going to go downhill just a little bit here, so you hardly even need to tap on the gas at all, or the throttles here. Remember, we've got that area of road construction over here, so one of the things to do is we don't want to hit that as we're taxiing out with our engines. And we're also going to pick up a lot of speed here. The last time I was a passenger flying out of this airport, I was in an Airbus A319 just like this one, and noticed that the captain was standing on the brakes every now and then. Not standing, but you could hear the brakes going on. And that was really kind of nice to know, because I was doing that all the time and I figured that my airplane wasn't very good. Well, technically, no, that's not it. We're going downhill. The east side of the airfield is at a lower elevation than the west side, so you're picking up speed. It's not your imagination, and that's what happens here in the X-Plane Simulator 2. We're going to go ahead and do auto brakes. That's going to go to RTO, or max, I guess is what we're going to call it here on the A319. And again, you see how we're picking up speed? Just like in the real world, so lightly tap on the brakes. Maybe a little more on the right side to get us centered up. Okay, next step in the process, let's go ahead and arm spoilers for takeoff. Those look good. We decided to do flaps 1, right? So flaps 1 takeoff. Always fun to look out the window. And there goes flaps 1. So slats are going down, looking over there, there's the flaps going out. Always kind of cool to do it that way. And as you look here on the ECAM, everything's clearing up, so let's just hit the takeoff config button, and everything stays green, so I like to say we passed the takeoff quiz there. We can also do the before takeoff checklist, which goes, flight controls have been checked, flight instruments are checked and set, briefing was completely botched and blown off by the pilots, flap setting is confirmed 1+F, you actually visually look down there and check it out. V1, VR flex temperature is set, yep they sure are, we're going to rotate at 148. ATC is set to TARA, and our ECAM memo up to this point is green, and we're going to say that we are good to go until the line. There's actually a line on these Airbus checklists, so we can basically say that we've taken care of everything down to the line, and then we're going to have to wait on checklists. As we continue to go on out, the modeling on this little baby bus is kind of nice. I know that sometimes I call this the baby bus and get called out on that. Technically, I think the A318 is what they call the baby bus. But there's so few A318s out there anymore, some people get to slide and call this one the baby bus. One of the things they're starting to model is the SATCOM transmitter dome on the back of the airplane, just ahead of the tail, which is kind of nice. And here we are coming up to the hold short line. I'm steering with rudder pedals right now. You can actually do that. But rudder pedals are only good for so much, so you do have to steer with the nose wheel as well too. Taxiing outside the airplane is kind of fun. To the line on that checklist right now, before takeoff checklist, we're going to basically confirm our takeoff runway as 28 right, and we've done that. Cabin crew has been informed that we are going to take off. TCAS is the way we like it. Engine mode is going to be normal. Packs are going to be on for this takeoff, and I don't think anybody's coming into Billings, so let's say something nice on the radio. Billings traffic, United A319 taking off runway 28 Billings. All right, onto an active runway. This is when I'm going to go ahead and start turning lights on, and that includes my strobes. This is also an airplane that has the landing lights that actually drop down under the airplane behind the wing. So this is when I've just dropped them down. I haven't turned them on yet. And we can basically go ahead, and I've been real bad. I don't usually do the chronometer, so we'll go ahead and start our chronometer as we go out onto the runway as well too. Pretty much all the pilots here taking off do the little 90-degree turn across the runway here, so that you get all the runway that you need. And then kind of a sharp turn like this. And there we go. I stomped on the right brake there. I was going a little bit fast. All right, at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and do throttles about halfway or so up to that first little mark. So that looks good. This is also when I'm going to turn on my lights. Tells the tower that we're actually going to fly. And now 2 clicks. That's manual flex. SRS runway is now set. Those are those 2 green indicators there on the primary flight display. You'll also look down below manual flex and see that the takeoff thrust is set to blue. And that means we can fly the airplane. And it's at 100 knots. Sounds are pretty good. Might need to turn down this sensitivity on my rudder pedals. There's V1, and here comes rotate. Flying outside the airplane is never easy. Positive rate of climb, gear going up. That's just a cool little airplane, isn't it? Sometimes I get a little bit climbing a little bit high out. I do recommend ortho scenery for your hometown airports. It's always nice to be able to say, I can see my house from here. And following the flight directors here in the airplane, you can see that we're climbing a little bit too steeply and we need to make a turn. It's also saying lever climb, thrust climb. And we'll just kind of go around here. Nice gentle turn around to Billings. The VOR. Still climbing a little steeply. Which I tend to do. And again, at this point in time, I'm really just following the flight directors at the moment. I'll also look outside. And that's kind of what it looks like. Still climbing a little bit too steeply. There we go. Just keep those two little crosshairs on the primary flight display centered. And we'll also go ahead and let's just hit the autopilot button. And there we go. You can see down here that we have, let's see, hit the little S, so that means we can go back into the cabin and watch as the leading edge slats go up. And if we also look back, you can see the airport and the runway right there. Slats are going up. I also disabled the, I turned off the speed brakes. Ground spoilers are off. We're also going to go ahead and I'm just going to reach up here and we're going to turn off that little light there for the switch on the nose wheel light. Coming up on 10,000 feet. 9 and 10. 10,000 feet. Ring the bell twice. That lets the flight attendants know that we are going to, that we've hit 10,000 feet. That's when they're usually going to say, hey, everybody, remain seated. And you might want to look in the seat pocket in front of you and sign up for our really cool credit card offer. Yeah, that's about what they do at 10,000 feet. Keep your seatbelt on and sign up for our credit card. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the two indicators here on my ND. It's just a little bit of noise there that I don't need to see at the moment. I'm also going to switch over to airports. And we've also got some terrain that we're going to be coming up on. So let's go ahead and turn on terrain radar as we go direct gates and grins. Passing 12,000 feet. The airport elevation here at Billings is 3,662 feet. So I'm waiting for 13.6, and that's 10,000 feet up. That's usually when I like to start thinking about turning off the landing lights. I've noticed United at night will leave the wing lights on the entire flight. There's 3.6 landing lights. As we continue to climb on out. Looking back over your shoulder, seeing the Yellowstone River back there, just crossed over that. Big state park just below us as well too. Big Canyon Lake where there's a lot of boaters as we start to move out of southern Montana and into Wyoming. Passing 14,000 feet. Getting ready for the after takeoff checklist, and that's going to be coming up here fairly quickly. And in fact, we could actually do the after takeoff checklist because there is a line here, so we can look up and say landing gear, is confirmed up and the lights are out. Flaps, we've confirmed those as up. And also, we're going to look at the packs. Yes, the packs are indeed off. There is a line, so we can basically say after takeoff checklist is good to the line. And the last item on that checklist is the baro reference, and that's resetting the altimeter to 2992 standard, and that's going to be at 18,000 feet here in the United States. So we're at 17,000, got about another, I'd say 1,000 feet to go, and then we get to push another button here. Again, I do like to suggest ortho scenery around your hometown. You really get to the point where you can start picking up landmarks and things like that. If you're over on the Microsoft Flight Simulator, of course, that just comes automatically, which is nice. Okay, 18,000 feet. We go ahead and we hit the button, and that makes it standard altimeter, and that lets us say that we can complete the after takeoff checklist. Everything else in the airplane is looking pretty good. We've got a climb going on here. We've got all the nose lights off. We've got the strobes, the beacon, and the nav lights on. Seatbelts, no smoking, remain on. Everything else is looking pretty good here. The real-world pilots are going to probably think at this point about keeping an eye out for other traffic, and then they might run through the ECAM. Just check out the engines, make sure that those numbers are looking good, look through the bleeds. Pressurization, make sure that nothing is leaking and that the airplane is maintaining a steady cabin pressure. Electrical page, you're looking here at the amperages, making sure that you're not overcharging the batteries. Real-world Airbus pilots say that they watch this gauge almost, not like a hawk, but pretty close, because they're making sure that all three of their hydraulic systems are in good shape. Fuel, make sure that none of the numbers of the fuel are going down dramatically. That would indicate that you've got a pretty bad fuel leak. APU should be off, and it is. Air conditioning, you can check out the temperature of the cabin and also what's going on in the cargo bays as well. Doors, they should all be closed, but one of the things the real-world pilots are going to do is look at that oxygen PSI and make sure that, blood isn't coming out of the ears and nose of the pilots, of the passengers of the pilots. A decrease in pressurization. 110 degrees Celsius, 80 degrees Celsius. Those are temperatures on the wheels. You might remember I did a pretty hard stomp on the brakes to that left brake at one point in time, so that's probably why that brake's a little warmer. Flight controls, we're going to look at those, make sure that none of those indicators have changed to red. Hit status. Status should show you anything that we might have deferred. As far as checklist items or problems with the airplane, there are none. So at this point in time, I'm going to hit clear, or I'm going to hit status, and that's just going to put us back into cruise mode. And we're 23,000 feet. Some nice puffy clouds out there. We're going to probably see these clouds on the increase as well, too, as we continue to make our way south into Denver. It's kind of hard to see. That was that Canyon State Park there, just going right behind the clouds, where there's a really nice boating area in these canyons. And pretty much you will see, and throughout all the summer months, boats all the time, especially on this particular departure. The hockey stick is showing up there. There's going to be our top of climb. There is Sheridan, Wyoming, to give you an idea of where we are. So we're going to basically hit gates, grins, and then basically it's direct to the top of the star going on into Denver. Everything is pretty well set right now, so one of the things that we're going to do is use the magic of video editing here and kind of fast forward. I'm not going to do too much more here on the flight except monitor my flight parameters. We're going to do another couple rounds of go through the ECAM. I'm told that real-world pilots will go through the ECAM basically once every 30 minutes or so once they get to cruise. We're at 25,000 feet or above. We don't have a lot of turbulence. I'm going to turn the seatbelt sign on, and I will check in with you after the little video edit, and that's going to probably be about, I'd say 50 miles before top of descent, so that we can get ready to go into Denver. So sit back, relax, enjoy the flight, enjoy some of that really good United Airlines coffee, and one of these Stroop waffles for our morning departure out of Billings, and we will see you back in just a little bit here. Do not touch that remote. Hello there, welcome back. We have gotten through most of the flight plan here, so it's about time for us to be ready to start our descent. In fact, if you look in here, you can see the top of descent has already shown up there. That's the what Captain Mike Ray in his books calls the hockey sticks. He calls those hockey sticks. That's the top of descent indicator there. On the McDo, we are 69 nautical miles out from top of descent. It's going to happen at 1621 UTC here. And if you look over here on the star, this is the way we're going to be coming in at Tichenor. We're going to be basically 13,000 feet and 210 knots. If we were under ATC control right now, at this point we would probably be getting clearance to descend via the flat one arrival, so that would clear us down to 13,000 feet at Tichenor. I'm going to go ahead and continue to take us all the way down to our final approach right around here, somewhere between Newland, Murren, and Jetson. And Newland, Murren, and Jetson is basically going to be 7,000 to 9,000 feet. Let's take the middle and call it 8,000 feet is what I'm going to put in here for my descent. So let's go ahead and pop that in. 8,000 feet is what we're going to be doing. 8,000 feet, so that looks pretty good. Next thing that we can do is look out the window, because I hit the wrong button. Next thing that we can do is come on over here, and we need to get a MDA, and that's going to be the call out that says minimums, and that's going to be 5,526 feet. So let's go over here, phase and phase. Remind myself, 5526, 5526. That goes in right there for the MDA. The current time is a little bit after the top of the hour, so one of the things I'm going to do is go and hit the METAR button over here, and this is Sim Toolkit Pro. Here's the latest weather information out of Denver, and I'm doing this through Active Sky, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy this weather information in to my flight notes here, and those are looking pretty good. So we'll just slide this back over here and get it out of the way. And let's go ahead and put in our weather information. Right now, winds 220 at 7, 220 at 07. So that's not too bad for winds. It'll be a little bit of a tailwind, but not much. Now 16. No, it's actually going to be a nice little wind force coming in. Let's see. Temperature is 15 degrees. Sometimes it gets easy. It's easy to get turned around. And then altimeter is 30.00, and that's going there. Now here's something that I've been doing lately with these airplanes. The A319, A320. I haven't really done this experiment with the A321, but I tend to be one of those pilots on the A300s. A3, 19, 20, and 21, I float halfway down the runway. So one of the things that I've started doing, particularly on a big old long runway like this, is I'm going to a config 3 landing. So that means instead of using flaps 4, I'm going to do flaps 3, a little bit faster, and I feel like this puts me a little bit more firmly down onto the runway, which I'd kind of like to do as opposed to float, float, float. One thing you do need to do is go on up here to GPWS and let GPWS know that you are going to do a flaps 3 landing. Otherwise, it will yell at you and say, full flaps, you're an idiot, unstable, and all of those other wonderful names that the airplane calls you. So right now, it does look like we are right around 40 miles from top of descent. We've inputted our weather. Let's see, everything else is pretty good. I did switch my frequency over to 12345. We'll go back to 122.95 as we get a little closer into the airport. Hit the perf button one more time, and it says 41 nautical miles out. Over on the flight plan, SimBrief said we needed 2.6 tons of fuel in the tanks so that we could be legal and didn't have to use any of our reserves. Right now, our estimated fuel on board is going to be 3.1 tons of fuel, so we will be perfectly legal as far as that is concerned. Everything else in the airplane is operating fairly normally right now. Everything's put away. Doors are locked. The engines are on. The transponder is transponding. The wings are still attached to the airplane. The engines are still attached to the wings. That's kind of nice to know. And I think we've probably gotten, or just passed the Casper Airport. Yeah, I think we've definitely taken care of, gotten past Casper. So here is the descent here. We're actually already on the flat one arrival. That was Tofu. So then it's Granola, and between Granola and Hippie, those will be our chances to land here. There has been a new update for X-Plane. It's 11.5 Vulkan. It's the second update since Vulkan went stable here. And one of the things that I'm kind of hoping for is that we don't see a flickering of the clouds on the horizon. That's one of the things that's gotten a little bit on the obnoxious side. And I've seen it slowly going away. I kind of think that maybe we're not seeing it right now. So we'll sit here and kind of hope that that's going to be the case. Other cold and darks that you might see online here on my YouTube channel, there's one for the A320neo. That's for the new Microsoft flight simulator. One of the ones that everybody was waiting for was the update for the fabulous Flight Factor A350 when they did that update. And that one is out there as well too. I think I've got another A320 or something like that, or something. And then the one that I'm planning to do after this is going to be for the fabulous Flight Factor Boeing 757, which is where I have the bulk of my flight simulator hours. So that's coming up as well too. We are at 37,000 feet, coming up on 20 minutes from our top of descent. Could also just look up here, make sure that nothing is out of place. And here on the Airbus, the only thing that would be out of place would be any kind of thing that is lit up. The idea is you look at that upper panel there and you basically say if there's nothing blinking or nothing on, then everything must be fine. The only thing that is on is the button that we know that we pressed for the GPWS, and that's going to be for a Land 3. One of the things that some Airbus pilots will talk about is it gets a little bit chilly in the flight deck of these Airbuses, particularly the floorboards if you're sitting up front. So I've been told that sometimes they will actually kind of kick the temperature up a little bit in the cabin. I'm also told that these little Airbuses get a little stuffy in the back of the cabin, so they might knock the temperature down just a little bit in the back. It isn't to make it cheap or anything, it's just to increase a little bit of the airflow. Is what I have basically heard about that. Okay, anything else? Speed is good. The other thing to do is look and make sure that your throttles haven't moved. I'm definitely one of those that is looking forward to the Thrustmaster Airbus side stick and throttle to be released. They did push it back about a month, so we'll wait an extra month and hope that all the little buttons go into place so that we're going to be able to pick that up. I think that that's going to be a really nice addition, especially for sim pilots that are spending a lot of time in Airbuses. 11 nautical miles out from top of descent. One of the things that I like to do is I've generally found if you can hit your descent a little bit before top of descent, the airplane just seems to be a little bit happier with you. And since I've written some spy stories and stuff like that, I usually like to rate for 7 miles, just an arbitrary number that I picked out of the sky. But when we get to 7 miles, that's usually when I hit top of descent, which is, we're waiting, there we go, 7 nautical miles to top of descent. Let's go ahead and hit that little button there. I don't know if you saw this, but when you move your cursor up here, the mouse pointer, and if you put it on the top, you only have 1 dot. If you have 2 dots, that means you're pulling it out. So 1 dot, just like in an Airbus, you're pushing it in, that's going to be managed. 2 dots, you're pulling it out, that means you're going to take care of it. It's the same way over here on speed. 1 dot is managed, 2 dots is not managed, but still controlled. The same thing is also going to be true of your heading as well. And as we look here, you can see that we have definitely started our descent. The little squiggly line that you see here, this is when we're actually going to catch up with our descent path. And one of the things we're going to look at is a green dot that's over here, and that little green dot that's over there is what they call the donut. There is actually something called green dot, and green dot is this little guy over here, and that's what that is. We are at Mach 0.71, so we did slow down a little bit for our descent. And as we get closer to the squiggly line, that's where we're going to intercept our descent path as we go in. Next thing for us to do is we know we're going into Denver right now, so I'm going to take it out of airplane mode and put it into constraint mode. And as we look here at the constraints, you can see that we're going to be above 27,000 feet at Hippie, and then above 19,000 feet at Flatty. And now here comes the donut. It's coming down here. And when we basically get the donut centered up here, also look up here in the upper right of the primary flight display, and you're going to see it go from speed probably to something called thrust idle. And that's just the most maximum efficient descent as far as fuel. We're just basically sipping fuel all the way down. And I think that that's one of the brilliant things that Airbus has done here in terms of, let's just make the most efficient descent that we can get. The squiggly line has now gone away as the donut gets a little bit closer here to the center. And now you can see we've gone into thrust idle mode. So now it's just going to, we just coast down. It doesn't get much better than that. Back here in the cabin, things are looking fairly nice. ToLiss has a single class cabin, and that's what they do. Some people have gone and dressed up the inside of the cabins of the ToLiss jetliners. I've got a Greek airline, Aegean, and a couple of aircraft painters have put a copy of Blue Magazine in the seat pocket there. And you can even hear the engines have just settled down all the way back here in the cabin as well, too. Back to the best seat in the house. Passing 33,000 feet. By now, the captain is probably about, 10 minutes ago made an announcement saying, hey, it's about time for us to start our descent. Might want to start clearing stuff off because we're turning the seatbelt sign on in about another 5-10 minutes. Still doing thrust idle, coming up on Hippie, and again, all it cares about here is that we are above 27,000 feet at Hippie. And this thing's just the airplane's gonna keep it, that little donut centered right there. A couple more constraints at Eldo. We're gonna be below 21,000 feet and at 250 knots, so that's gonna be a slowdown. And everything looks pretty good. At 32,000 feet, yeah, that looks great. That looks good. Let's go ahead and switch on over to 122.9. I did check over on the big map on POSCON, and I think that we are probably the only people that are flying on POSCON today. If you look on their world map, there's one airplane. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody else started flying too. So somebody's flying in the UK right now. Paul is flying in the UK. There's a 737 flight going on. Hope eventually when you go and they start putting, when you click on an airplane, it will also show if you have filed a flight plan, a destination and a origin and a destination. It'd be kind of nice to know those sorts of things too. And I think that that's really about it. 2 airplanes on POSCON, but it is growing. It's growing very well. I know that over on the Twitch live stream that I do, the Spy Flight, we've probably got about 20 people that will jump on POSCON and do a group flight, which is really, really quite nice. Let's see. Anything else that we can worry about at the minute? It's 26 minutes past the hour. That means we're not going to be getting any updated weather information. I guess the only thing that I might do is I might go over here to FlightAware. Since there is no ATC, what I'll do is go ahead and take a look at Denver Airport. And let's just have a look and see what Denver is doing right now. And usually this is, if there's no air traffic or anything like that, I'll go in and take a look and see what's going on. And it looks like Denver has switched runways. So Denver is now landing to the north, not landing to the south. I guess that means we've got to make a change. So for us, usually they're going to bring us in on this side. Let's just go ahead and snag 3-5 left. So we do have to make a change for our runway. That's easy enough to do. So let's go into the flight plan, and we're going to go to Denver. and we're going to go to arrivals, and we're going to look for the ILS for runway 35 left. So they've switched runways, ILS 35 left. We are still going to be on the flat 1 arrival. That's good. Only this time, we need to decide, are we going to be a boss or a Krupp, or what are we going to do? So let's go ahead and get rid of that chart. Let's go over here, and we're going to go all the way up here and go to approaches, and we need 35 left. There's the ILS and localizer. So from here, we're going to come on in. There's Teller, there's Ladora, there's Boss, there's Krupp. As we come in on the approach over here, that would bring us in on Hi Mom. Actually, though, I think that they would bring us in around like this if we're going to land here, so it'd be Dog. So would Dog set us up for Boss? Been a while since I've done this. Maybe. Let's just say Krupp for now and kind of go from there. See what, well, maybe, is there a Dog? Nope, there's Ladora, there's Teller, there's Krupp. Let's just go with Krupp right now. Transitions, Folsom, Mary Jane, Tofu. We did the Tofu arrival, but let's just go ahead and go that and insert. It's probably going to beep at us. Or did it just take it? No, it took it. Yeah, there it is. Nicely done. It just took it. How about that? So our descent continues, but we've been able to successfully change runways. We are going to go and need to put in a new ILS for the decision height. That's going to be 5634. So let's go over here to perf. Change this to 5634 for our decision height. It's not that much, but it is enough, and we want those to be as accurate as possible. Still going to go with the config 3 landing. Everything else is going to be fine. VAP, our approach speed, is going to be 134 knots, landing at about 129. This does add a little bit of time, though. If we go over here now, it shows us landing at about 1655 Zulu. So it added probably about another 5 to 10 minutes of flying time as we go and switch runways here. So that added a little bit of time. And as we look in here, we are now 26 nautical miles out from top of descent. So this is going to be the place where I usually go ahead and reach over here and turn on seatbelts. Right around 25,000 feet, depending upon whether or not you've got turbulence in the area. Flight attendants are going to be running through with the the plastic trash bags, and people are going to be starting to, as they see the seatbelt sign go on, can I still go to the bathroom? No, that's why the seatbelt sign is on. At some point in time, there's going to be a pilot or a flight attendant that is going to write an incredibly great book called Stupid Passenger Tricks. You just know that that's coming, right? So we are still a little bit low right now, but we're close enough to the donut at the moment that we're going to stay thrust idle. Here at Flatty, we just have to be above 19,000 feet. We're going to be above 19,000 feet. Over here at Eldo, we've got to be below 21,000 feet. And the reason that they've got those sorts of things set up is that's to have us, you know, traffic that's going one way in between certain altitudes, because, you know, here between Flatty and Eldo, there might be departing traffic that they are going to have anywhere between, you know, above or below flight level 190, or in this case above flight level 2100. So there might be an airplane above us, but these are these little corridors where they expect us to stay so that we don't run into one another. Coming over the front range of Colorado, this is also an area where you're going to get a good little bit of turbulence. But this is also another really great area if you feel like downloading some ortho. Any place that's got, you know, the mountains or the desert or a coastline is really pretty good. Airplane decided we were going a little bit slow, so it just gave us a little boost of power there to get back up to our little speed envelope here. Passing 24,000 feet. There's Flatty, there's Eldo. Seatbelts are on, no smoking, GPWS. Looking here at the runway. So once we come on in here, we're going to be landing to the north. This is a good long runway here. So 12,000 feet. There's the Bravo concourse. So we're going to be parking here at the Bravo concourse in Denver. So really, we don't want to be stomping on the brakes. There's not a lot of people behind us. I'd almost like to try and catch the M6, this high speed here, to get off the runway. And then normally this flight goes into Bravo 23 in the morning. But we're going to be on this side of the airport. So I'm going to go over here and we'll grab one of those gates. And a nice approach. Nothing to change here. We could go ahead and arm our speed brakes. And I'm going to go auto brakes low. So we keep having some things to do, passing 23,000 feet. And then the big thing, I guess, is look outside the airplane. Make sure there isn't any trouble. One of the things that I did read about in the change log is the TCAS is supposed to identify an awful lot more airplanes. And if you're on a parallel approach to parallel runways with another airplane, this is not going to alert you. So if you are on a parallel approach with two runways, it might alert you, but in this case, it doesn't alert you anymore. So we'll just continue on here. That looks good. I'm going to start dialing my map in just a little bit as well, too. And now we are at a point in the flight where all we're going to do is just sit and wait. So while we're waiting, I'll let you know that I also do live streaming over on Twitch on a fairly regular basis. We're kind of bouncing in between X-Plane 11 and the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're kind of doing different kinds of flights. We'll one day choose one of the difficult approaches like going into Paro or something like that. On non-days like that, non-busy days, we'll go and do what I call a milk run. And that's just a practice flight like this, you know, and everybody just takes off from their hometown airport and goes to the big city airport or something along those lines. It does make for really good practice. And this is one of the things you kind of have to be practiced up at. If you're not ready to go with it, you know, your landings are not great. So, and then even with practice, some of us have a problem as well, too. There are some really good resources online if you are looking for them. One of the resources I was telling you about is a resource called Black Box, and that's this one right here. This is where I got thrust reduction and acceleration numbers. So we are coming on into Denver. If we were departing, you'd put in KDEN, and it's going to go and look for that. And so this is going to give you all sorts of information about the runways that you're going to need. But as you look down here, for noise abatement too, thrust reduction at Denver and acceleration 6,440 feet. If you have an engine go out, that's going to be 7,000 feet. It also gives you some departure information. There's clearance, delivery, ground. This is a really good website for you to have. And like I said, I usually include this in the I usually will include this web address. Black Box is a real-world pilot. Black Box also does live streaming over on Twitch. Another good web address that I'm going to be putting in here, this is a very special calculator for Airbuses. This is going to give you basically your flex temperature and takeoff speeds. This was essentially written for the FS Labs A320, so for a lot of the A319, 20, and 21s, this thing, well, it doesn't work for the 21 anymore. So one of the things is, though, is the 319 and the 320, one of the things that goes on here is you can get this information, but as far as weight and balance and other things, the numbers aren't going to add up, but it's still an absolutely excellent checklist. And for those of us into flight simming, we can't wait for that FS Labs A320 to make its way into the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hint, hint, if the FS Labs people might be watching. Okay, so here we are. We're supposed to be well, you can see we've leveled off a little bit here. We're going to start another descent to be below 17,000 feet at tot, and then above 13,000 feet at back. So I guess we're going to hold this 19,000 feet. I was kind of hoping that we might actually end up getting to 18,000 feet. We could start turning on landing lights and resetting the altimeter. Altimeter, again, if you're flying with me, is easy to obtain. I get mine right now through SimToolkit Pro, which also goes through ActiveSky. But let's say you don't have that information. Well, one of the other places you can go is go to FlightAware. And we are going into KDEN, so put Denver in the search box, hit enter, and this is where we went to find out that Denver had switched runways and we're now landing to the north. But one of the things to do is go all the way down to the bottom here, and look at that. At the bottom on the right, Denver weather, and there is that METAR. So that's another place that you can go. FlightAware.com, put in the airport you're going to, and it's going to give you that weather information. Yeah, I think that that's really handy for sure. Passing 18,300, that's close enough for me. I'm going to hit the top of the button here for the altimeter, and we're going to put in altimeter 3000. And it's close enough to the altitude here, so I'm going to go ahead and get everything ready to light up the nose of the airplane. So it's going to drop out the landing lights for me, but it's also when the nose wheel comes down, the runway turn-off lights and the nose wheel light is going to take off. Here's some of those low clouds. Remember, Denver is expecting some stormy weather later on today, so they're going to probably see clouds building up throughout the afternoon hours. It's still morning as I'm doing this flight. And here at TOT, we're expected to be below 17,000 feet. We've got a mile to that checkpoint and about 100, 200 feet to go, so I think we're going to hit that altitude restriction just fine. Our speed is supposed to be down to 250. We're going to main 250 until we get to high mom, and then at that point it should be dropping our speed down just a little bit to 210. When we get to this 210, that's when I'm going to take temporary control away from managed speed, and I'm going to start getting my speed down just a little bit more. As I sit and I watch airplanes on approach using things like FlightAware, especially into airports like Denver that I've spent a lot of time watching, I've noticed that they're going to drop their speed to about 180, and within 5 miles, that's usually the point when they'll drop the landing gear and get to landing speed. So 5 miles from the end of the runway. We're a little bit below that 250 right now. We're, well, 235, not quite 240. Not sure exactly why the airplane has us going this slow, but I'm not going to whine. 1 to 2.95, we could also start thinking about what we're going to say on the radio. Again, here on POSCON, we're just doing traffic advisories as we come into the area. And usually what we're going to end up doing is we're going to say which airport that we're talking to, what kind of an airplane we are, maybe what our airline is, and what our intentions are, and then end it up with the airport. So in my case, Denver is how I'm going to begin and end my announcement. Instead of using my flight number, though, one of the other live streamers, Agent Bravo 7, was basically saying she doesn't use the flight number. She instead does the kind of aircraft and the airline, because she says, you know, other airplanes out there looking around might say, there's supposedly United Flight 441 around here. Well, there's an airplane there and an airplane there, but, you know, if they're both United, who is it? Well, if you say that you're a United A319, that helps the other airplanes be able to spot you a little bit better. So instead of your flight number, just what kind of airplane and what kind of airline is the way to go. And as we come up here, I can see Denver, so let's go ahead and say something on the radio. Denver traffic, United A319. We are just to the north of the airport. We are on the Lakes arrival, and we're on the west side, planning our ILS for runway 35 left, Denver. And that's all you've got to do. If you are new to VATSIM or POSCON or Pilot Edge, and you're really nervous about talking on the radio, understand that that happens to everybody their first time talking on the radio. So one of the things that I'd suggest is listen to a few other of what some of the other pilots are saying, and even feel free to go ahead and write it down. You could write it down in a text file and have it on your desktop, or write it down in a, on an index card with a Sharpie, and then actually practice your lines. I know some real-world pilots that have practiced their lines like that, and that's one of the ways you learn to talk on the radio. And again, don't let it hold you back. Do not let it hold you back if you're thinking about starting to get on one of the ATC networks. Everybody goes through that kind of mic fright. And it's not just something that happens on this internet flying thing either. Pilots get some real bad mic fright too. There is Denver Airport, and there is our arrival runway, runway 35 left. That's the one we're going for. We were going to be landing here on 16 right, but obviously there's a change. So we can make a change. That's easy. Another thing to do is if you are going to be new on especially something like POSCON, VATSIM, or even Pilot Edge, you know that one of the things that you'll have to do is file a flight plan with that network. And there is a place in all flight plans where you can put remarks. And generally, if you're using something like SimToolkit Pro or SimBrief, it's going to populate your remarks with some stuff anyway. But one of the things to do is to click on that box and add in your own little remark at the end of all the other remarks, and basically have it say, new to VATSIM. First time on VATSIM, something like that. VATSIM newbie. And even though it's not your first time, maybe use that for the first 10 times until you feel a little bit more comfortable doing that. Because the flight controllers, they're going to see that out there, and they might be a little more merciful or something like that with you. So that's one of the suggestions I like to make. If you're new on the flight control networks, just write VATSIM newbie, first time on VATSIM, and don't be shy about leaving it up there for the first 10 times until you're 100% ready to go. And we are starting our speed reduction now to 210 knots. As we look on in here, there's a little green dot. And this one, unlike this green dot, the donut, this is one that we actually do call green dot. And that's the speed where it is that it's okay for us to start thinking about rolling out some flaps. So that's also what those two little hash marks there are as well too. So as our speed goes down to 210, I'm going to go ahead and do flaps 1. So you can reach down, flaps 1. The other thing that I'm going to do is we're getting close in. I'm going to go ahead and hit a button here on speed. And instead of the single little button reaching for the top, I'm going to pull it out this way. And I'm going to make my own speed, and I'm going to put that down to about 210. And then I'm going to look down here, and I'm going to just put the McDo into approach mode. Because when I want to go and start managing my approach for landing, I just want to make sure the McDo is ready to go. All right, so we are now at 11,000 feet at High Mom. At Selby, that's 9,000 feet. So let's go ahead, and in this case, I'm going to go and hit the 2 dots. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to just have the airplane do a free descent down to 9,000 feet. And as soon as we get below Selby here, or somewhere thereabouts, we're going to go and reduce our speed and start our turn into Selby. In fact, there we go. There's 10,000 feet. At this point, I'm also going to put the LS button in. That's for the ILS system. If we were doing an RNAV approach, we would leave that button out. We wouldn't press that button. But on an RNAV, you could still go over and hit the approach button. And with most RNAV approaches, you're going to get a vertical deviation and sometimes even a lateral deviation on your flight path. And the flight management computer, the autopilot, will follow that for you and help set you up on a really nice approach. Passing 10,000 feet, I think we're going to be able to hit that 9,000 at Selby very, very easily. So the next step for me is to start to get our speed down to 180. 180 is just one of those little cutoff numbers that I get that I have on an approach like this. Two reasons why I've got those numbers. One reason is because basically it gives me a little more control of the airplane, makes it a little less slippery on arrival. And as we get closer to 180, I can also roll out a little more flap. And that helps me contain my speed a bit. Okay, 9,500, we are below the approach. There is Selby, we're a little bit beyond that, so now let's go to direct to, and we're gonna go direct Selby and insert it. And now the airplane's gonna turn us around. We're getting close to 180, so let's reach down here and call flaps 2. Flaps 2. And let's say something on the radio. Denver traffic, United A320, turning base for runway 35 left, Denver. And if other traffic were in the area, they would basically be saying what they were doing too. And we're now going over some of the South Denver suburbs. We've already gone past the downtown area of Denver. Ground spoilers are armed. We could also do the approach checklist. Briefing was completely blown off. ECAM status. Anything funky on the ECAM? Nope, it's good. Seatbelts are on. Barrel reference has been set. The MDA was set. Engine mode is going to be normal. There's our approach checklist. Taken care of. And really that just helps remind you of everything that you have to do. Now we're going to look here. I've got a little diamond on each side below the glide path off to the right here. So as we get to Selby, I'm going to go ahead and let the airplane get us centered up on the approach. And look out here. I see the airport. It's kind of hard to see there probably, but it is definitely there. I'm also going to make sure that my approach map is in here too. My airport map. And we're going to try and hit the M6 or the M7. So I'm not going to really stomp on the brakes too hard. Much rather do a high-speed taxi on the runway than a slow-speed taxi. Now, the problem with that little bit of logic, though, is, yeah, I can taxi faster, but if there's 5 other airplanes stacked up behind me, they want me off the runway as fast as possible. So that's one of those little trade-offs. Looking here, you can also see the runway is clearly shown between 10 and 15 miles out. There's Selby, there's Diamond, and in just a second we're going to notice the 2 little diamonds start to make their way to centered, and we'll also notice that we've snagged the glide slope and localizer. They're blue right now on the primary flight display, and there we go. We're starting to make our turn. Localizer now has a box and a star around it. That means that we are acquiring the localizer. There comes the localizer. And looking good. We are at 7,000 feet right now, so basically we're a little bit on the low side. I should have chosen 9,000. So we're a little bit low at the moment. Coming up on 10 miles from the runway, so I'm going to go ahead and dial my radio in one last time. My map radial, not radio, radial. There's 5 miles, there's 7 miles. Here comes glide slope. Denver traffic, United A319, 7-mile final for runway 35, landing Denver. We'll wait until we actually start our descent, and we got another one of those little squiggly lines right there. This is telling us when we're going to intercept the descent path. So that looks good. We can also go outside and enjoy looking around the airplane here. Got the landing lights on. Really good looking airplane. One of the interesting things to notice on our approach is look here in some of the ground textures. You're going to see an airplane on the ground there. And that was an airplane on either departure or landing from the 3.5s here that during the time the satellite picture was taken that the scenery is derived from. So look for that as we get a little bit closer, unless they've cleaned it out. Okay, we are on our final descent, and here we are on a 5-mile final. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and go back to manage speed, which is going to set us up on our landing speed. Gear's going to go down. There goes our gear. And you see as the gear goes down, also the lights on the nose wheel turn on. Our speed is coming down. Over on the ECAM, it wants us to notify the cabin. So 2 bells for the cabin, and see the cabin has been notified of our landing. Our speed's getting a little bit closer to the triangle, so we can get ready to roll out the last notch of flaps. Flaps 3. Got the airport, got the runway. And now at this point in time, pilot gets to fly the airplane a little bit. Why should auto get to have all the fun? But I usually wait until we're established on everything. Our speed's established, our descent's established, let the airplane do some of the work, but then we say, my airplane. I have 2 buttons set up on my joystick. One is basically pressing the autopilot 1 button. The second button off to the side, that's clearing the master warning. And now we're just going to follow the approach in. We've got a tailwind of 6 knots from behind us. So we're going to be moving pretty fast here.
300. 200.
200. That's the inner marker.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, 5, retard.
I didn't hear touchdown. Ooh, my touchdown sound did not happen. And slight reversers. My landing rate was minus 221 according to Sim Toolkit Pro. A little bit of manual braking, 100 knots. And we are in Denver. Speed brake's going to go down. Pop up the flaps. Looks like we're going to catch that second high speed. Not bad. Okay, we're done with the runway. So we're going to turn off the landing lights. We're off the runway, so I'm going to turn off the strobes. And I'm going to open the flap on the APU. Denver traffic, United A319 is clear of runway 35 left. No damage to the concrete. Denver. Every now and then a little humor is always good, right? Still going a little fast, but not too fast. By now the flap should be open. We can hit the second button, get that APU started. And we'll make our turn here. This is going to be Bravo November. Bravo November is basically the north side of the Bravo concourse. Bravo Sierra, the south side, and that's kind of the way they name these things. APU is up. And the hard part is to stay on the little lines, especially when you want to go looking around. By the way, the Denver airport for the new Microsoft Flight Simulator looks pretty good. That's one of the first paywares, I think, that is available for that. So that one's pretty good. And now we're just going to taxi to parking here at Big DIA. If there were other airplanes here on POSCON, we would see them. The model matching keeps getting better. And in fact, one of the things that I saw when I was starting up the computer today was POSCON downloaded a bunch of new CSLs. So there would be some other interesting airplanes available out there. Again, my landing rate's 221, so not bad at all. Once again, I do like to say things like, this is not the right way versus the wrong way. This is just the way that works for me. And I hope some of this might work for you. As always, I do encourage you to leave your comments. I'm still really new at YouTube, so I still have time to read every comment out there. If you like what you saw, YouTube doesn't support this channel with advertising or anything. It's not monetized. But if you'd like to show your support or love, head on over to Twitch. You can subscribe to my live stream over there. And if you really want to check out some fun stuff, the other thing to do is to go over to Amazon. I've got a series of 3 spy stories over on Amazon. You could help out that way too. Also, feel free to put requests in for any cold and dark videos that you'd like to see me do here, and I'd be more than happy to do that. And let's see here. It looks like the airplane is slowly making its way to the gate. I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. You probably shut down an airplane before, so good luck with your flight, and I'll look forward to seeing you over on the spy flight soon. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you and your family are safe from the big bad bug and that you're having some fun flying. Cheers.